A Social Security payment arriving on schedule can bring immediate relief. But the bigger concern is not only one check in May 2026, it is what could happen to benefits in the years ahead if lawmakers keep delaying decisions while seniors, retirees, SSDI recipients, survivors, spouses, and families depend on these monthly payments. The immediate payment update is clear. Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, is the scheduled Social Security payment date for people receiving retirement benefits, survivor benefits, or disability benefits if their birthday falls from the 11th through the 20th of the month. This is the second regular Social Security payment wave for May 2026. The schedule works like this. Birthdays from the 1st through the 10th were scheduled for May 13th. Birthdays from the 11th through the 20th are scheduled for May 20th, and birthdays from the 21st through the 31st are scheduled for May 27th. So, if someone is waiting for the May 20th deposit, that date is tied directly to the middle birthday group. But the important exception is that this birthday-based schedule does not apply to everyone. If a person started receiving Social Security before May 1997, or if they receive Supplemental Security Income, also called SSI, their payment schedule may be different, and many people in those groups usually receive payments earlier in the month. That is why beneficiaries should compare their own situation with the official Social Security payment calendar before assuming a delay. Now, the May 20th payment information is important, but this is where the story becomes much larger. Getting paid on time this month is one issue. Protecting Social Security for the future is another. Lawmakers are now discussing steps that could affect the long-term direction of the program, and beneficiaries need to pay attention because Social Security is facing a serious funding problem. This is not just another political headline or routine debate. The question is whether the program can keep paying full scheduled benefits in the future without changes. If Congress waits too long, the people who could feel the consequences first are those who rely most on monthly checks. Lawmakers are now talking about forming a bipartisan commission, meaning a group made up of Democrats and Republicans, including lawmakers from both the House and the Senate. The purpose would be to study the financial problems facing Social Security and other major federal programs, then recommend possible solutions. But it is important to understand what a commission really means. A commission does not automatically fix Social Security, it does not instantly protect anyone's check, and it does not guarantee that benefits are safe. It simply means lawmakers may create a formal process to review the numbers, debate the options, and bring possible recommendations to Congress. Still, that matters, because doing nothing is not a plan. Ignoring the problem is not a plan. Waiting until the last minute is not a plan. Pretending everything is fine until benefit reductions are close to the door would be a disaster for millions of people. The reason a bipartisan commission could matter is simple. Social Security is politically difficult to fix. One side may want to raise taxes, another side may want to adjust benefits. Some lawmakers may support increasing the taxable wage cap, others may want rule changes for higher earners, and some may push broader funding reforms. If only one party supports a plan, the other side can reject it quickly. That is why a bipartisan process could have a better chance of moving forward because both sides would be forced to sit at the same table. The idea being discussed is similar to a one-year think tank approach. Lawmakers would meet, study the problem, collect different proposals, and eventually present recommendations to Congress. Then Congress would decide whether to move forward or reject those ideas. But here is the hard truth. A study group is only useful if lawmakers are serious. If they use it as another excuse to delay, then it becomes another political show. Beneficiaries do not need another report that sits on a shelf. They need action before the Social Security Trust Fund problem becomes a direct threat to monthly checks. This is where beneficiaries should be especially alert. Social Security depends heavily on payroll taxes. Workers pay into the system, employers pay into the system, and that money helps fund benefits. But if the economy weakens, unemployment rises, or fewer people are working, less payroll tax money comes in, which can make the funding problem worse. Think about it in practical terms. If millions of people lose jobs during a recession, they are no longer paying the same amount into Social Security through payroll taxes. At the same time, Social Security still has to send payments to retirees, disabled workers, survivors, spouses, and other beneficiaries. That puts more pressure on the program. This is why waiting is dangerous. Every year Congress delays, the choices become harder. If lawmakers act early, they may have more options. If they wait until the last minute, the solutions could become more painful, more rushed, and more politically chaotic. Many people naturally focus on the next payment, the next possible raise, the next stimulus rumor, or the next short-term headline. But the bigger issue is whether Social Security can avoid major automatic reductions in the future if Congress fails to act. A one-time payment may help for a moment, but a permanent benefit cut would affect people every month, year after year. That is why this topic matters so much. For many beneficiaries, Social Security is not extra money. It is rent money, grocery money, electric bill money, and medication money. It can be the difference between staying stable and falling behind. So when lawmakers talk about Social Security's future, beneficiaries should not ignore it. The smart approach is to stay informed, watch what lawmakers actually propose, and pay attention to whether this bipartisan commission becomes a real step toward protecting Social Security or just another delay tactic. Words are easy, reports are easy, and committees are easy. Real solutions are harder, and the future of Social Security depends on whether lawmakers are willing to move beyond discussion before the problem becomes more painful. The payment schedule for May 2026 may look simple, but it still matters because different groups receive payments on different dates. A person born in the first 10 days of the month was connected to the May 13th payment, someone born from the 11th through the 20th is connected to May 20th, and someone born from the 21st through the 31st is connected to May 27th. That birthday rule can explain why friends, relatives, or spouses may not receive their checks on the same day. But exceptions matter just as much. SSI recipients and people who began receiving Social Security before May 1997 may follow a different schedule, often earlier in the month. That is why checking the official schedule is the safest step before assuming a problem. Once the payment date is understood, the larger warning remains. The serious question is not only whether one payment arrives on time, but whether Social Security can keep paying full scheduled benefits in the future. A bipartisan commission could help if it forces lawmakers from both parties to confront the funding challenge, study the numbers, and present real options. But it will only matter if it leads to action. A commission used for delay would not protect beneficiaries. A report without decisions would not protect checks. A committee without solutions would not solve the trust fund problem. Social Security's funding pressure is closely tied to the strength of payroll tax revenue, and that means the labor market matters. When people are working, money flows into the system. When unemployment rises or fewer people are working, less money enters the system. Even though benefit payments still have to go out, retirees, disabled workers, survivors, spouses, and other beneficiaries still need their checks regardless of economic conditions. That imbalance is why delay creates risk. Earlier action may allow smoother choices, while last-minute action may force rushed and difficult decisions. Beneficiaries should separate the short-term calendar from the long-term policy problem. May 20th, 2026 is the scheduled payment date for the 11th through 20th birthday group, unless a different schedule applies because of SSI or pre-May 1997 Social Security status. But beyond that, the bigger issue is whether Congress will act before Social Security's financial strain becomes a direct threat to monthly benefits. The measure of progress will not be how many speeches lawmakers give or how many reports they release. The measure will be whether they move toward real solutions before millions of people who depend on Social Security for rent, groceries, electricity, medication, and basic stability face greater uncertainty. Beneficiaries do not live on promises, headlines, or political committees. They live on the monthly payments that help keep their households steady. And that is why both the May 2026 payment schedule and the future of Social Security deserve close attention. The larger message is not meant to create panic, but it is meant to create awareness. A scheduled payment date can tell beneficiaries when to expect money in a specific month, while the funding debate tells them whether those monthly checks could face pressure later. That difference matters because a calendar update is temporary. but a benefit reduction would be ongoing. The important thing for beneficiaries is to keep both issues in view at the same time. Confirm the May 2026 schedule carefully, especially if the birthday group or SSI exception applies, and also follow whether Congress turns the proposed bipartisan commission into meaningful action. A serious process would compare options, face the trust fund challenge directly, and move recommendations toward a decision. A weak process would repeat the same cycle of meetings, reports, and political arguments without protecting the people who depend on the program. Here's where it gets interesting. The people most affected by delay are often the people with the least room to absorb a sudden change. For someone living on a fixed income, even a small disruption can affect rent, groceries, power bills, or medication costs. That is why the future of Social Security cannot be treated as a distant policy issue. It is connected to everyday life, and it deserves attention before the choices become more limited. The strongest takeaway is simple. Payment timing matters now, but long-term protection matters even more. Beneficiaries should know their scheduled date, understand exceptions, and watch whether lawmakers produce real solutions before the problem gets far harder.